Hi, I'm Nicolette.
And I'm Sean.
And welcome to the Graveyard Shift.
In this podcast, we talk about true crime mysteries and the paranormal.
This is where we dig up new dirt on old stories that you may or may not have heard before.
We try to gather as many facts as possible and then put our own spin on what may have happened.
We don't gather all the facts, just enough to tell the story.
So if we've missed something important, let us know.
But don't be a dick about it. And please, keep your private detectiveness to yourself.
Other than that, kick back, relax, and welcome to the Graveyard Shift.
Don't forget to like and subscribe. We're so happy to have you guys back and listening and enjoying these crazy stories that fill your ear holes.
Okay.
So what's been going on?
You know,
what have you been researching?
I've been researching all about this amazing little spot in Kentucky called Bobby Mackey's Music World.
Wow, that sounds really interesting.
Do you like country music?
I
Nicolette?
do.
Do you like country music?
I do like country music.
Oh, wow. Well, do I have the place for you?
Oh, awesome.
Well, all right. Rural Kentucky. We have this small little honky-tonk country nightclub. They've got a mechanical bull. Mm-hmm. They've got a dance floor for line dancing.
Sounds fun.
Yeah, good stuff.
Sounds like Saddle Ranch a little bit, though.
Yeah, Saddle Ranch. There you go. And local musicians, they play there and everything. And but it has this whole other world behind it. This dark history of murder, suicide, and arcane cult rituals and possession and demonic forces, and even a rumored portal to hell.
Whoa.
So
I'm excited.
Yes.
Tell me all about it.
Good stuff. All right. Well, so talking about rural Kentucky and this little place in Wilder, Kentucky. Right now it's at 44 Licking Pike, and it's known as Bobby Mackey's Music World. But long before that, it had a very dark history. Oh. Now, this land was originally on Native American grounds.
As it is, always.
As always.
Yep.
And it was the site of some very big battles and massacres. A lot of Native Americans were killed in brutal fights. A lot of bloodshed.
Yeah,
exactly. And then when the white settlers came in, and there were a lot of brutal battles where a lot of Native Americans were murdered on these lands as well. And
so tragic.
Yeah, it's really like a pretty dark history of bloodshed going back hundreds and hundreds of years.
Right.
Yeah, so this place, this land, it's right on the bed of the Licking River.
Okay.
And so after years of bloodshed on this land, they actually built a railroad. In the 1800s, they built a railroad going across this land.
Oh, interesting.
And this railroad was a lot of it was, this railway was built over a lot of the graves and the burial grounds of the Native Americans that had lived here.
Oh, that'll stir up some energies, huh?
Exactly. So, you can see that this, and, the stories that continue from this point are just, unbelievable. But even going back, this far, there's a lot of history there.
That's so terrible.
So the exact location of what would eventually become Bobby Mackey's Music World, it got even more filled with death and dark, gruesome forces. It was the site of a slaughterhouse.
Oh no!
Yeah.
What kind of a slaughter? What do you mean
slaughterhouse?
What does that
mean? Where they were beef cattle, slaughtered for meat.
Not
meat
slaughtering
slaughterhouse.
People, but
not slaughtering people.
Okay,
not
good.
at this point. But no, this is like a beef slaughterhouse kind of thing. And they were. It was built here in the 1850s. So this slaughterhouse was built in the 1850s, and this slaughterhouse was here for like about 40 years. Mm-hmm. Animals would make their final journey to this place.
Do you think that there are any cow spirits there?
I don't know. There haven't been any rumors of cow spirits.
Darn it. I want to know what happens to them. Anyway.
What happens to them too. So the slaughterhouse, though, but back then, the standards, not that the standards are always where they should be today either, but the standards back then were not kept up very well. And so instead of, properly dispensing of all the blood and guts and bones and cartilage, what they did was they dumped it into a well in the basement of the slaughterhouse.
Oh, no.
So just blood and bones and all the animal parts.
I wonder if that could be considered like animal sacrifice. And
from that point,
oof.
Animal sacrifice became common at this location.
Oh, my
which, I mean,
goodness.
you're kind of you're figuring that out
Leading them
for
right
sure.
along.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, this well was filled with all of this, the blood of animals and other.
No.
And the well fed out into a nearby river, and it turned the clear waters of the river red with blood. Like there was like a bloody river. And
oh my goodness.
And as you figured out, they actually had called this little well like the most epic sacrificial pit on this planet. And so that was
jeez.
Pretty dark.
Oh goodness.
Yeah, how would you feel if you lived by a river that was red with blood?
I would be incredibly frightened and think that the second coming of Christ was about to happen.
Exactly.
To be honest, this is now the Red Sea, guys.
I know, right? What is this? This is like how it was let, to happen even back then. I don't know.
Right? Oh no, it seems so very irresponsible.
Yeah.
To be just dumping the blood of animals down this well and then having it go out into the rest of the city like that. It's
like, who thought this was okay?
Also, like, there's got to be disease that happened from that. A
lot of disease, as we know now. A lot of disease can come from dead animals, and it's a lot of sickness.
Oh my goodness!
But as you had figured out, what happened after this, this pit became famous for all of these, animal bodies and carcasses and blood and all this dumped in there. Mm-hmm. The slaughterhouse closed down, but the reputation stayed of this blood-stained land, and so the land was used by satanic cults.
Of course it was.
Yeah, of course, naturally, for their rituals and sacrifices.
As you do,
Yeah, it was like where do we want to sacrifice our animals? We're going to do it where they were already.
They already were, so we might as well continue on, right? Oh, Lord.
It's terrible. I mean, really, really terrible. Eventually in 1896, it became the site of a pretty well publicized murder. The murder of Pearl Bryan.
Oh no! So what was Pearl's story?
She was a 22-year-old, this young girl who fell in love with a dentist. And this dentist
seems very respectable.
Respectful job.
He's got to make lots of money. He's probably one of the only ones in town.
Yeah. There are also, legend has it, he may have been a leader of a satanic cult himself.
No.
But that's just legend. That's rumors. That doesn't. I'll stick with the historical facts. The true crime, but speculation. But Scott Jackson was the dentist that she fell in love with. And she became pregnant with his child.
Oh, okay. So how did that go over?
Not so good. No, it didn't turn out so well.
So what happened?
They didn't want to have the child.
Neither of them did?
Neither of them wanted to have the child.
Wow.
So they had planned to have an abortion.
Okay.
And Scott told her that, I'm going to take you up to Cincinnati. We're going to get this abortion done. Everything will be fine. We'll be okay and all this.
And abortions weren't as they are today.
No, they were not.
You could definitely die from an abortion at that time because things were very not as sterile as they are now.
Exactly.
And also we have other ways of doing that sort of thing.
Indeed. And so Scott, but even worse than taking her up to what would have admittedly been a very dangerous procedure anyway at those times. Yeah. In those times, we told her, I'm going to take you up to Cincinnati. We're going to get an abortion done. But instead, Scott started to get a little worried, and he was like, "Man, if I take her up to Cincinnati and get this abortion done, somebody's going to find out. They're going to talk. It's going to hurt my reputation."
Yeah.
So he's a little bit worried about his dental practice and all this.
Absolutely.
And so what he planned to carry out a procedure of his own.
Oh no.
On her. And he's like, okay, I'm a dentist. I've done dental work. How could that be any different than abortions, right?
I think there's two different things there.
maybe
You're
two
working on
different-
mouths
Yeah,
versus...
no,
it doesn't compute. It's okay, sure. Go ahead.
And so he gets his friend, and in some stories his roommate, but either his friend and or roommate, Alonzo Walling, and he
Okay.
gets Alonzo, who is also trained in dentistry, and
I mean,
yeah, naturally,
dentists.
yeah.
I mean, barbers used to take blood, so
That's actually true, yeah.
so that's also very
yeah.
maybe
They thought,
I
okay,
mean,
we're trained in dentistry, so it's a
know how
natural
to do this.
progression
Yeah.
to, this other kind of work. So they drugged Pearl with a lot of cocaine.
Oh,
And they, with a good amount of cocaine, that
cocaine is a powerful drug.
powerful drug. And they attempted the
That's what
abortion.
James would say.
That's what James would say. Cocaine is a powerful drug. That is. They attempted the abortion, and it actually is very sad. It went like horribly wrong in the middle of the procedure, and they tried it, and
God.
it realized it was not going to be successful, and so they cut off her head.
Oh my God.
Yeah, they cut off Pearl's head.
To add insult to injury.
Yeah, and now here's even like want to send a chill up your spine for a little bit. Like they the medical examiners afterwards, looking at her body, concluded that she had been alive as they were cutting off her head. So she was not. They didn't kill her and then cut off her head. They cut off her head in that act. That's what killed her. So. Is a pretty so you want to talk about trauma, and I know
oh my God,
as we've discussed before, the trauma leaving spirit energy behind. This is not too much that can be more traumatic than having your head sawed off
while you're still alive.
Yeah,
that's horrible.
It's pretty bad. They dumped her body in the backwoods near Fort Thomas, Kentucky. Her body was nearly unidentifiable because her head was missing, and they had to identify her by the tag on her shoes because her shoes were custom made for her in Indiana. So they found out at that point.
That's interesting.
That, to touch on those details, one of the other clues that the medical examiners found that she had been alive while her head was being cut off is that she had defensive wounds all over her arms and hands, and
so she did fight back.
Yeah, she fought back. She tried to fight this. So yeah, they dumped her body, and now the 19th century crime scene investigation. It was pretty limited.
Well, yeah,
Didn't have the forensic capabilities that we have today. But they identified the body by this tag on the shoe.
That's pretty good.
Yeah, it's pretty good, right?
I think.
Yeah, good stuff. Like good detective work.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, they didn't have the capability of fingerprinting, so that kind of you got to find other ways.
Exactly.
So I mean,
so Scott Jackson was convicted of murdering Brian.
Well, good.
Yes,
because he did that.
Poor Pearl. He was convicted of murdering Pearl, and after her body was identified, her relationship to Scott, all of that came out, and
as it would
tend to come out.
Why did you kill her? Well, there's this thing.
We were having a baby, and Alonzo Walling also, he was brought. They discovered that he was a part of this as well.
Right.
And now Alonzo said that yes, he helped to drug her, but he was not actually there for the murder.
Oh,
but he was convicted as well.
Yeah.
He was convicted as well of this crime, and
he better be. He's lying through his teeth.
Yeah, I mean it's scary, man. But Scott Jackson, just such a nice guy. He just says that his friend did everything. He says Alonzo Walling, he did it all. I wasn't even there. So these guys are each trying to say that the other one was the only murderer.
Of
but
course,
they
because it always happens. You gotta blame somebody else except for yourself. You can't take responsibility.
Exactly. So each one accused the other one of being the killer, but both were found guilty and both were sentenced to die by hanging.
Oh, my.
Now, Scott Jackson, he denied being guilty of the murder all the way up to his death. Now, there's one news clipping that states that he admitted the murder the night before he was hanged, but that's just one source. Other than that, everybody says that he claimed his innocence all the way to his death. And even on the gallows, when asked for his last statement, he said, "I have only this to say, that I am not guilty for the crime of which I am now compelled to pay the penalty of my life."
Really?
Yes.
Well, then, who else could have possibly done it? That's my question.
Exactly. I mean, it was pretty clear. They had a pretty strong idea, but now here's something interesting. Now, Alonzo and Scott. Now, I've read a lot about this now. Some stories say this was Scott that said this. Some stories say this was Alonzo that said this. Some stories say it was both. But one or the other or both threatened to haunt the area forever when after they were killed. Like they threatened to be around forever. I'm going to haunt you because you're killing me for this crime.
Oh, wow.
And so,
well, I mean, when you curse land like that,
yeah,
you're gonna stick around, aren't you?
Here's another little thing too. Okay, so they were sentenced to death. Mm-hmm. It was said, as the body was found, the head was never found. Head's missing. It's never been found. Oh. Supposedly they were told that they would get a life in prison sentence instead of death if they just agreed to say where the head had been disposed of.
Okay.
Both men refused to say where the head had been disposed. Now, partly that could be in their defense because if I tell you where the head is, then that means I'm admitting to the crime.
Well,
so that makes sense.
True.
But the legend has it that the men threw the head into one of the wells in the basement of the slaughterhouse.
Of course.
Yes.
I was wondering that myself when you said that they had cut off the head and the body was missing the head. So where did they put the head? Yeah. Oh, man.
And so they tossed the head down the wells, so legend has it, that used to contain the blood and the guts of the animals. Now...
more sacrificing.
Some court testimony by the men lead people to believe that they were driving on a bridge at the time and that maybe they tossed her head off a bridge.
Okay.
But most people have decided that, the head went down the well, and this is...
Because they can't find it.
Yeah, exactly. And it opened the what they have come to believe is a portal to hell.
Yeah.
So that's a big part of this. Now... there are also some that believe, and I mentioned that Scott Jackson was also rumored to be the head of a satanic cult. There are some that believe that Jackson Walling never intended to give her the abortion in the first place, and that they were always planning to kill her. Some said that they were both satanic cult members.
Got a weird chill. That sucked.
Yeah, it's kind of creepy. It is.
Yes.
Some said they were both satanic cult members, and some have even said that Pearl's head was found at one point in the center of a bloody pentagram at the site where Bob Mackey's Music World now sits.
Yeah.
So,
oh no.
But if the head was found, it wasn't by police because it's still
it's still missing.
It's still missing according to records.
Yeah.
So. This was a big crime at the time. This was a very big crime. Everybody was talking about it. As you can imagine, it was quite the controversy. But by the 1920s or so, this had been already forgotten. It was yesterday's news.
Wow.
And the slaughterhouse was torn down. It was rebuilt into this bar, lounge, casino place by. It was kind of like a roadhouse, and it was built by the Cleveland Four. There was a lot of mob activity going on in this whole region of the U.S., including like right here in Kentucky at this spot. So notorious mobster E.A. Buck Brady started this roadhouse in 1933, and he called it the Primrose.
That's a very pretty name.
Beautiful name for mobsters to come hang out, gamble.
Right? Yeah. Interesting. Okay.
So they started the Primrose. Like people were bootlegging alcohol there. They were, gangsters were there. All kinds of bad people that were, and so as you would expect, a lot of violence happened there.
Right.
Other mobsters and other mob gangs around the area wanted to own this place.
Right. Okay.
And they wanted to have this, and so including Albert Red Masterson was another famous mobster of the time. Eventually there was this big shootout. And now this is, again, right at that location, the slaughterhouse location, what's now Bobby Mackey's Music World. And there's a big shootout. A lot of people killed in like a mafia mob gunfight.
Oh, wow. So it was a couple of different mafias that were fighting each other? Okay.
Exactly. And now the owner of the place, E.A. Buck Brady, he went to jail for this, for murder in the course of this event. As a result of this event, he went to jail for murder. But he was released years later, and he vowed that there will never be another successful casino here ever again. And then he committed suicide.
Wow.
Yes.
So he's also cursing the land.
He's also cursing the land. A lot of people have cursed this land. And,
it seems like it.
Buck committed suicide, but before he took his own life, he sold the business in the early 1950s.
Okay.
And it opened up as the Latin Quarter. And it was here that, like in the Latin Quarter, another famous death would occur.
Okay.
And I'll tell you about that one after the break.
Okay.
Be right back in the Graveyard Shift. Thank you for tuning into the Graveyard Shift. We'll be taking a short break, so get off the treadmill, park your car, or just grab a cup of coffee during this brief intermission.
You can visit us at thegraveyardshift.com.
With 2 H's.
Also, you can view our videos on YouTube.
Don't forget to like and subscribe.
And email us at thegraveyardshift@gmail.com.
Also with 2 H's.
And now, back to our program.
Welcome back to the Graveyard Shift. I'm Sean.
I'm Nicolette. And we were just talking about Bobby Mackey's Music World, and Sean was telling us all about some famous deaths and rituals that have happened on this property. So take it away.
Crazy stuff, right? Okay, so we were saying that the Mafia Hangout Roadhouse, the Primrose, had been sold to new owners who were still keeping it as like a casino music establishment called the Latin Quarter.
Okay.
Now, this next story, this is it's been passed down through history.
Okay.
There's a lot of debate about how historically accurate the facts are, but I'll tell you the story as it is widely told and as most believe it. Joanna Jules was a dancer at the Latin Quarter, and she was the daughter of the owner. And the owner is believed to be a mobster as well at the time, perhaps even a famous mobster at the time. She fell in love deeply with this singer-musician, Robert Randall.
Okay.
And Joanna gets pregnant by Robert.
Oh, my.
Her father finds out.
Oh,
Takes it pretty badly. And so badly that he calls up his friends in the mob and has Robert Randall killed.
Oh, no.
Yeah, murdered. No. So, man, it was pretty rough for these young women getting pregnant then. Like a lot of scandal and everybody's trying to...
Right on that property.
Yeah.
It seems like an epidemic.
Exactly. So Robert Randall's killed. Joanna's heartbroken. She goes crazy over this. She attempts to poison her father.
Oh, my.
Does not succeed.
Well, obviously.
Yeah, she didn't know what she was doing in the poisoning department. And then eventually she scrawls a poem on the wall of one of the rooms there in the Latin Quarter, which is now Bobby Mackey's Music World.
Right.
She goes down to where the slaughterhouse basement had been, where the well was, which now has the dressing rooms for the Latin Quarter.
Really?
The dressing rooms are down there for the dancers.
Oh, okay.
She goes down there.
Got it.
And she commits suicide.
Oh.
So that
lovely.
Yes. So yet another death at this place that this has just been surrounded by murder and death.
Yeah, that's terrible.
So, all right. So this dancer, she kills herself in this room, this dressing room, which is right near the well of blood, this sacrificial pit.
Yep.
And now that's a popular spot. Actually, this room is a popular spot for people to visit in Bobby Mackey's Music World,
Really?
which I'll get to. But so she took her life. There's a lot of skepticism about this story, as I was mentioning, because many of the details of this story come from a journal that was found.
Okay.
Journal was found by this guy named Carl Lawson, who was a longtime caretaker of the property of the site.
Okay.
And he, shared this journal with authorities and shared this journal with other people, reporters and people interested in everything going on there. And a lot of times he didn't actually show the journal. He just talked about what he had read in it. And
Okay.
so there's some skepticism about it.
Well, I mean,
And some of the details there don't match up to the historical fact in terms of who Joanna's father might have been, or how her suicide took place. And some people even say that it might have taken place a couple miles away from the Bobby Mackey's music world. But
interesting.
but I would say of all of the accounts that I read, nearly all of them, just about all of them, the vast majority say that this whole thing happened in this club.
Okay.
So
Okay.
that would be that now is Bobby Mackey's music world.
Right.
And the story of romantic murder, suicide of Joanna Jules, it's the stuff of legend now, and one of the key draws to this place as a location of paranormal activity. Now, so the Latin Quarter stays open until 1961. It was shut down then because they were trying to stop organized crime. There's a little
Right.
effort and wanted to shut down some of the illegal gambling and things that were going on there. Becomes a biker bar.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, right? Totally. This place
Might
has
have
got
been
a
my
wild
hangout.
history. Yeah. Hey. It's
Not too much. I'm not that rough and tumble.
No, the funny thing is it was called the Hard Rock Cafe Bar, but it has nothing to do with the Hard Rock
That's
Cafe now. It was like
amazing.
the Hard Rock Biker Bar. But like a lot of violence was happening here. A lot
Crazy.
of crimes, murders, fights, everything. And because there were so many shootings between
Wow.
customers there
Yeah.
at the time, it was shut down.
Okay.
This biker bar was shut down in 1977.
Wow.
Things just got too violent there. But again, this place has this history of violence, this
Yep.
history of blood.
Yep.
And so Mr. Bobby Mackey, purchased the place in 1978, and he opened up Bob Mackey's Music World. Yeah. And so you said you like country music enough. Have you been
Yeah.
to like a country bar? Like
Not too many. I mean, here in LA, there are a few that like to say that they're country type bars,
Right.
but they're very Hollywoodized. I'm gonna say
okay,
that way.
I would agree. Yes.
So I mean, it's very. I'd say it's more not traditional. That's what
Yeah,
I'm gonna say.
right.
Kind of spaghetti western.
Exactly.
That's how I feel
More
about it,
going
but-
for the feel like that. Now,
Yeah.
this place, from what I've heard, the pictures I've seen, the reviews I've read online
Mm-hmm.
of even just customers reviewing it as an establishment to go
Okay.
see music. This place is a true Kentucky country dive roadhouse bar.
Nice.
And
An old honky tonk.
an old honky tonk. Yes. and so, everything there, things started to go crazy. And Carl Lawson, who I mentioned, the caretaker of the site, and Bobby Mackey started to experience quite a bit of paranormal activity, encounters, energy, negative energy, that led this place to now become known as one of the most haunted places in America.
Insane.
And I'll tell you a little bit more about that after we take just another quick break.
Okay.
Thank you for tuning into the Graveyard Shift. We'll be taking a short break, so get off the treadmill, park your car, or just grab a cup of coffee during this brief intermission.
You can visit us at thegraveyardshift.com.
With 2 H's.
Also, you can view our videos on YouTube
Don't forget to like and subscribe.
and email us at thegraveyardshift@gmail.com.
Also with 2 H's.
And now, back to our program. All right, welcome back to the Graveyard Shift. We have Sean talking about the infamous Bobby Mackey's Music World, where tons of just turmoil and torture and sacrifice and sacrificial rituals happened.
Yeah, it's just
Just bloodbath.
A lot of crazy stuff, just blood, violence, and murder. But so Bobby Mackey, we were at the point 1978. Bobby Mackey opens this as Bobby Mackey's Music World.
Mm-hmm.
He did it in part because he wanted to. He was a musician himself, a
Okay.
singer himself, and he wanted a place where he could play his music for
Wait,
people.
didn't he have, what was his name when he was born?
Did he have another name? That I am not sure.
From what I
of.
remember,
As
his
yeah.
mom named him Robert Randall Mackey.
Oh, that is exactly true. It is Robert Randall Mackey, and I did read that as well.
Isn't that
Thank you for
weird?
bringing that up, because isn't that a little weird after the whole murder of Robert Randall?
Yeah.
It's a little...
Johanna's
And in fact,
lover.
because of that fact, that has also led to more skepticism about some of the stuff that's in this journal that
Right.
Carl Lawson, because where did they get this name Robert Randall? And
Yeah.
but yeah, that is
And then
pretty
he,
interesting.
he actually wrote a song about Johanna,
Ooh.
from what I know.
I heard a little bit, but I didn't hear the song itself.
It's pretty. I think it's kind of creepy, and
Yeah.
I mean, it's almost a love song. Like,
Yeah.
it's interesting because he could have been the reincarnation of Robert Randall.
Sure.
We don't know.
Exactly. We don't know. It's, I mean, time-wise, it kind of could...
It kind
yeah.
of works,
Mhm.
yeah. And then him writing that song about
Yeah.
her. 'Cause, I mean, I guess he's actually very skeptical, from what I know.
Yeah. This is, like... everything that I've read said that he was extremely skeptical to begin with.
Mm-hmm.
And that, in fact, when some of these things started happening and Carl Lawson was telling everybody about this, he was like, dude, shut up. You're going to kill my business. Like, I'm trying to run this country bar here, and you're, making people scared as hell of,
Right.
of ghosts. But now at this point, he's had some encounters himself that he describes, which are pretty interesting.
Which he
Yeah.
can't explain, but he's
Exactly,
still
but
he's
yeah.
still a skeptic.
Yeah. It's now okay, so he moves in, and supposedly there are some intense unexplained phenomena. Now his own wife claims to have been clawed at and pushed down the stairs
While she
by
was
malevolent
pregnant,
yeah,
from what I
exactly.
understand.
Yeah,
Ugh.
which you can
That's creepy.
figure that stuff out there with the parallels to previous stories involving pregnant women at this place,
Uh-huh.
But very interesting. But yeah, she's claimed to be clawed and pushed and all this.
Right.
Now, workmen and contractors that were renovating the establishment, they've talked about everything happening there. Like
Wow.
bumps and sounds, objects moving. And then also, consistently, one of the things people say is they've been pushed, slapped, punched, hit, pushed down the stairs.
That's insane.
Yeah.
That's insane that all that energy can come back like
Exactly.
that and be physical with
And
people.
that was one of the things that there's a lot of discussion of negative energy here. It's not just, things that
Yeah.
people see, but there's a lot of feelings that these are really like dark forces in for most cases,
Yeah.
And so some of the workmen that were renovating the place, they were like, I'm not coming back here. Like, that's it.
I would
done.
imagine if I was
Yeah.
working on a place doing construction like
Yeah.
that and trying to rebuild it up and something came and
Yeah, well,
I
yeah.
couldn't see it and it was messing with me,
Exactly.
I think
I'd be
I'd
like,
leave too.
Yeah, I'll get a job somewhere else.
Yep.
This is not cool.
So
but-
creepy.
But Bobby Mack, he's skeptical of all this stuff. Like, as you
Oh, of
said,
course.
as you've heard him, and like he didn't want this to ruin his business because he'd spent everything he had, all his
Mm-hmm.
money on this is his dream business, his club, and now all of a sudden everybody's talking about it less for the music and more for all the crazy stuff that's
yeah.
happening here. And now the phenomena, though, just continues and continues, and more people are reporting it. Again, objects moving, lights and electronics turning off and on.
As they are wont to do with
Yeah.
paranormal activity happening. Yep.
People describing shadowy apparitions that
Wow.
they've seen there. And then here's a consistent one that I've heard from a number of accounts. This just weight, this feeling of sickness and dread and malice. Just like you can just walk into a place and it's so filled with this negative energy that it just, and you could argue, okay, well, if you're going in psychologically expecting some of that, maybe that some of that
Sure.
is self-driven, but the consistent description of this just powerful weight, particularly the closer that you get to the basement
Right.
and the
Right,
well.
right. Well, I mean,
Yeah.
that's kind of the hub, right?
Yeah,
So
exactly.
That would
And-
explain a lot.
And so yeah, it's just that terrible, dread, and
kind
then
of oppression feeling.
yeah, exactly. Now, some of the spirits here, they're said to live here in the basement, and
Okay.
but they do, they go
Venture
throughout the
out.
building. They
Mhm.
venture throughout the building. They like to harass patrons, harass people that venture
that's
down to the
fun.
basement. Yeah, that was the big sign that he eventually put up in the place. Come for the ghosts, stay for the music.
There you go.
It's a little advertisement, but some of the things people have said that they see, they mention, and this is one of the less threatening spiritual presences. The ghost of Joanna.
Oh, really?
That she likes to hang out in the former dressing room, and she often appears in mirrors.
Oh, interesting.
And this is a big thing. People say they smell this rose perfume.
See, I would like that smell too.
Yeah, right. I would like that too. That's good. It's like, and at least
It's
that, if you're
pleasant.
going somewhere so scary, that at least feels like something that's like this pleasant little.
Yeah. Oh, Grandma's here. It's okay.
Exactly. Grandma's. And so
Got rose
sometimes,
perfume.
I know what that rose
That's
perfume
so
smells like. Yeah. They say that she turns on the jukebox and will like turn on music that was like, particularly songs that were popular in her time.
Okay.
And, that these songs will just start playing.
The ones that she really liked.
Yeah,
I'm sure.
probably her favorite
Yeah.
songs that are still left there.
That's always kind of cool.
And then there have even been some accounts that if she's feeling really active, that she'll say your name. They know that she'll actually
Oh, I just got
call your
chills.
names. I know, yeah. And that feels like something that, who wouldn't want to go see that? That
Oh,
doesn't seem like anything
absolutely.
that would scare anyone away. That would be like, oh wow, we're really going to get to have experience this interesting interaction with
Absolutely.
them. And then you have the headless specter of Pearl Bryan, who is said to
course.
be there.
How sad.
Yeah, she, and that's supposed to be this the spirit without a head that when she appears, you just feel this deep sense of sadness, of melancholy,
Well,
as you can.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and it's been said that the spirits of Scott Jackson and Alonzo Walling also have been known to haunt this place.
Really,
And,
both of them.
and that
Wow.
there is it's a malicious, negative sense that people get from this. And I'll touch on the Scott Jackson part in just a moment, but just to say that there are known to be like around 40 different spirits that
Whoa.
are active in
Really?
this place, in this.
Wow, I wonder
yeah.
who the other ones are because that's only 4.
I know that's only 4, and I'll tell you about one more. There is this cowboy, this really scary cowboy that is supposed to be there, which he's fully dressed in cowboy attire. He's got a
Wow.
handlebar mustache, and he's said to appear, and he attacks people, and has even been said to beat people unconscious.
Oh no. That's rude.
He haunts the restrooms, and
Oh, lovely.
he's said to repeat Di Giame, I think that's the pronunciation, Latin for die well, over and over again.
That's very
So,
interesting.
yeah, that's-
So he must not have been
Not from
a white
this,
guy.
Yeah, exactly. From this era that we were talking about before.
Right.
Yeah.
Diame. Okay, so
What's your reaction if you're just going to the bathroom at your country bar, you've had a few beers, and then all of a sudden there's a handlebar mustache cowboy, pushing you around? I mean, that's
I'm
scary.
saying Diame in
Diame,
my ear.
yeah, exactly.
What? I think I would be so frightened. I think I
Yeah.
would try to run if I
Yeah.
could.
Yeah.
I don't even know if I would be able to because you might get paralyzed with fear in that sense.
I would think. I mean, it's just like to encounter something like that. But that's been one of those consistent stories about
so
this place.
frightening.
Now, there's a very angry dark shadow that likes to break things, and it seems to especially target women.
Oh,
With
wow.
its attacks. These are some of the 40 different spirits that are supposed to be there at Bobby Mackey's Music World, and they all have different personalities, different temperaments, different levels of aggression, danger.
Sure.
Gonna get back to the story just really quickly of 20-year-old Carl Lawson, who was the caretaker, as we mentioned already. He started working there. He's cleaning, he's painting, and he moves up into the attic of the building. He's taking care of it, living there, and he starts to complain that he's just being driven crazy by supernatural phenomena, by paranormal activity.
Wow.
And he said he was being actively physically attacked
Wow.
and even possessed. And this is where a lot of talk about possession comes in about this place, and that he said he was possessed by demons, and that he said the demons are crawling through the old slaughterhouse well in the basement, and he is the one to say that I think this is a portal to hell, because you have all this stuff going on there, and it's like, and everything seems to be, all the negative stuff seems to be really centered and coming much stronger from this well. And he calls it the portal to hell. Yeah. Now, Lawson, he was complaining of marks and scratches on his body. He was taken over by something evil on more than one occasion. And so what do? They perform an exorcism of Carl and of the building itself.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Exorcism was performed by Reverend Glenn Coe in August of 1991. Wow. Now, I know that you are an avid viewer of these things. Have you seen the video of the exorcism?
I did actually see a little snippet of it.
Yeah.
Prior to this, I didn't know that you could do an exorcism on a house. I thought it was only for people.
Exactly, same here.
But yeah, apparently, in order to cleanse a place, or it's basically, that's what it means, is to clean, like an exorcising. You got to exorcise the demons. You take out or clean the human or the house or the building or whatever it is, which is very interesting. And it seemed like when I did see this little snippet of the exorcism, it seemed like Carl was having a really rough time.
Really rough time.
This whatever was in him did not want to let go.
Yeah, and it was like I watched the full video that's available of the whole thing.
Did you?
And I honestly. I was trying to view it from different perspectives, but there was nothing that I could say that would not make this a chilling viewing for me. Like that this, there's...
Tell me what that's all about.
Yeah, it's... because I'm thinking, okay, he's a young guy. Maybe he has some problems, some mental problems,
sure.
And and he seems very erratic in his emotions, and some of that could seem to be put on in like kind of a performance.
Sure, like eccentricities, or maybe a kind of psychotic episode or something like that. Something
and so I'm
mental.
watching the first few minutes, and I feel like even in that period of time that the Reverend Glenn Coe, he's doing everything that should be done for an exorcism. Sure. He's doing everything that should be done. But I felt like, and this is just totally me reading into it, not anything I've read, but I felt like there was this sense of him like, I'm not even sure if I believe this guy, but I'm going to keep going with this. But then as it goes along, he absolutely was drawn into the sincerity of this process, of this procedure.
Wow.
And I too just became like, man, there's just something really scary going on
right.
here. Like it's and that was, we've talked about different times researching these different things and having feelings come over. Right. I watched this video and I had like just this chill go over my body. Like it's
freaky.
It's freaky.
That is freaky. Oh.
And so the Lawson believed that the club had been cleansed of his evil. He hoped. But Mackey was still very strict with him to not talk about his supernatural experiences and all that. But then soon after, more and more people started visiting and having encounters, and it seemed to be coming back, and then now it's just
interesting. It's still going on.
Yeah, it's still going on, and it's a popular place for ghost hunters, both professional and amateur, and. There have been all sorts of photographs and EVP, which we've talked about before. And according to them, the location is absolutely swarming, like just filled with like this like sharp energy, just crackling energy.
Oh, great.
Yeah. It's been visited by, now I know you said you've seen the Ghost Adventures
of course.
episode. They actually went there twice.
Oh, yes, they did.
But after the first one, what was Zach Baggins? What did he said he was that he felt like he had been possessed.
Yeah. I think him and Aaron and Nick all kind of vowed that they would never go back there because they were afraid of becoming possessed again, like Carl had.
Right.
And then they wound up visiting that place again.
Yeah.
Because it sometimes I don't know, those places tend to kind of have a hold on you.
Yeah, have a hold on you, like.
You become obsessed with
exactly. And I can understand that, but it's like being drawn back to this place that is filled with all of this
bad stuff.
But
it's a temptation, guys.
Yeah, it really is. But yeah, he claims to have made contact with the murderer of Paul O'Brien, and I did watch the video where it's the voice does not say that it is Scott Jackson, but they concluded that it was Scott Jackson. But the voice did say, "I murdered Pearl. I killed Pearl." And
I mean, how can you say that if that spirit didn't actually say their name? It could have been somebody else entirely.
But it was the spirit said the name. The spirit. Oh, it could have been somebody else. Yes.
Right.
Yeah, that murdered Pearl. Exactly. But he was saying, "Oh, it's got to be Scott Jackson. It's got to be Scott Jackson." And
that's again speculation. Fine, sure.
But they're definitely, and I listened to it myself. That like this voice that was pretty responsive in its
That's amazing.
words as well. But one of the things was like, I murdered Pearl. I murdered Pearl. I murdered Pearl. Yeah, it was very
wow,
very creepy. Very and so he was so convinced that he had been possessed that he had an exorcism carried out on himself. Zach
did obviously.
Exorcism carried out on him, and then he eventually. He claims he was physically assaulted by a demonic entity down there, and that left claw marks on his chest.
No.
And but they returned in spite of everybody being scared to go back. They did return,
of course.
So many of the ghost hunters who've come here have made note of the this high concentration of negative energy down in the well, down in the basement, and many people have continued to pass along that idea that Carl Lawson had said that this is like a portal to hell.
Yeah.
And
didn't he also pass away kind of, not recently, but like not too long after
the death of Carl Lawson? I would have to.
You don't know about that?
No, I didn't know.
Well, from what I understand, Carl Lawson's spirit is still at Bobby Mackey's music world as well.
Just what he needs, another spirit.
I know. It's a vortex.
It's like a vortex of everything.
Well, and he left that place, so
he
for
did,
him
and he
to
took
stay
care of it
there,
for so long. Yeah, it's like, and stay there with such frightening things going on around him.
Absolutely,
he did love it. And Bobby Mackey's, they've eventually had no choice but to embrace all of this attention. Regarding
obviously.
the paranormal activity there. They have ghost tours there.
I think his lawyer told him to put up a sign.
That's exactly right. The sign reads, "Warning to our patrons. This establishment is purported to be haunted. Management is not responsible and cannot be held liable for any actions of any ghosts and spirits on this premises." Yeah. It's
so funny.
It's wild, right?
Well,
yeah.
I mean,
it's kind of kitschy. It's kind of like, but at the same time, I mean, he was like having people, somebody tried to sue him, for getting hurt there,
in the bathroom from the handlebar mustache cowboy guy.
Yeah, that's so.
That's freaky.
And
how could you sue somebody for a ghost attacking you, though?
Exactly. I know that's a pretty hard thing to make stand up in court.
Absolutely. I mean, I can't see it, and there's no evidence.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
Sorry, it's dropped.
The location. All right. So it's it's become famous for all these things.
Right.
The gangster mob den, the slaughterhouse, the site of murder and suicide, and all of this ritualistic satanic cults.
Yep.
And tours of the basement now they're featured daily, and they include viewing of the well. The well's is it 3 feet by 18. Yeah,
okay.
Deep hole. It's considered the supernatural vortex of the site.
That's so crazy.
And there is a 2-hour tour of the facility during the daytime hours, and paranormal teams can purchase 5-hour stints for private investigations of the site.
Wow.
Just in case you're interested, as I definitely am after having studied this.
Well, I'm interested as well. I kind of want to go and explore.
Definitely. But yeah, to bring us to a close, this last little nugget, Bob Mackey actually decided he wanted to build a new honky tonk next door to this Bob Mackey's music world. He wanted to build a new honky tonk next door to this building, and then he's talking over with the builder about the new plans for the new building.
Okay.
And big piece of the ceiling fell on his head while he's talking on Bobby's head.
No way.
Big piece of the ceiling fell on his head, and he was like, all right, you know what?
I
Forget
guess
this.
not.
Forget this. And he discovered that the well would have been running under the new property anyways. So he's
Oh,
like, all right, what's the point?
well.
I'm stuck here. There's the haunted well. And yeah.
Oh, well.
Oh, well. And so if you're in the mood for a beer and perhaps a spiritual assault, then, head on down
And
to
some
Bobby.
awesome
Yes.
country
And
music.
some awesome country music.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, thank you for joining us for another episode of The Graveyard Shift. I'm Sean.
I'm Nicolette. You can reach us on our social platforms. Instagram is The Graveyard Shift with 2 H's. Twitter is Graveyard Shift, but it has 2 H's.
Yes. Any stories you want to share with us? Have any of you been to Bobby Mackey's Music World, or if you've been have any other stories?
Any paranormal
anything.
stories.
We'd love to hear and maybe even discuss one of your stories. So please email us at
thegraveyardshift@gmail.com.
2 H's.
All right. And until next time, guys,
All right. We will see you
in the graveyard.